Good afternoon, and welcome to all our guests and attendees. My name is Victor Manalo, and congratulations on finding your way to the 20th anniversary celebration of the California Social Work Hall of Distinction, or HOD as it's affectionately known. I'll be accompanying you through the highlights of our 20 years of inductions into the HOD. If you'd like to look ahead, you can find the list of our speakers and their topics in today's online program, along with the acknowledgments of the many people who contributed to this event, the people who have managed it in years past, and a link to the whole array of honorees on the HOD website, both alphabetically and by year of induction. This afternoon, you will be hearing from a sampling of a diverse group of dignitaries who have attended our past induction ceremonies, as well as those who have been inducted into the HOD over the past 20 years. I'm sure you will fondly remember those in this retrospective who are no longer with us, and that you will recognize those of us who continue to serve with the youthful passion and vigor. The HOD is about stories, so what's my story? Well, I'm a social worker, and I'm a board member of the California Social Welfare Archives, which you will learn about in a bit, and I'm a member of the Hall of Distinction Committee. I'm a transplant from Chicago, Illinois, who was lured by the California dream. While I was an MSW student at Cal State Long Beach, my dreams of becoming a licensed clinical social worker were dashed by the harsh reality of civil unrest and the uprising in South Los Angeles after the Rodney King verdicts. It's a really interesting story, but this is not about my time to share my story. This is about our honorees sharing their own stories that will inform and inspire future generations of social workers to action. I've been teaching graduate and undergraduate students at Cal State LA since 2002, and I hope that the HOD will empower my students to tell their own stories as a way of educating others about their unique experiences and to ultimately inspire their clients to persevere in achieving their own dreams. The annual Hall of Distinction induction is a project of the California Social Welfare Archives, which is held at USC's Suzanne Dworak Peck School of Social Work. The CSWA, or Archives, has a governing board, and one of its committees is devoted to producing this event as part of its annual HOD support. To let you know more about the Archives, it's now my pleasure to introduce our latest CSWA board member, Dr. Virginia Rondero Hernandez. Dr. Hernandez was inducted into the HOD last year and would like to share with you a video about the Archives to set the scene for today's retrospective. Dr. Hernandez is a former professor and director of the Department of Social Work Education at Fresno State University. She also served as the director of the California Social Work Education Center, CalSWEC. In these capacities, she handled massive budgets, important and delegate personnel and staffing issues, provided leadership and guidance for growing the public service social work workforce for our state. Beyond her professional accomplishments, she is a joyous person to be near, and she has her own story of triumphing over obstacles on her way to greatness. I now bring to you Dr. Virginia Rondero Hernandez.
Thank you, Victor, and a warm welcome to all of our 20th anniversary Hall of Distinction viewers today. I welcome and thank you for joining us, and especially for all of you who have been or more recently became supporters of our much-needed work here. I'm so pleased that I can speak to you today using the best technology options that allow us to make this gathering more inclusive and accessible for many. I really enjoyed hearing about Victor's path in his stellar social work career, and I want to share a few parallel steps along my own journey. I'm a second-generation Californian and first-generation college attender, and the first in my family to earn a PhD. I have been a social worker since 1981, principally in the fields of developmental disabilities, healthcare services, medical social work, school social work, and nonprofit administration. I also served as a social work educator and administrator for 28 years. I've kept up with my contributions to our field as an executive and leadership coach, consultant, and facilitator in the fields of child welfare, health and human services, and higher education. I remain in contact with a number of my past social work students, many of whom have accelerated in their careers and have moved into leadership positions. I balance my work responsibilities with a strong commitment to my family, including 4 grandchildren, 2 of whom are identical twin boys in the neonatal intensive care unit as we speak. I hope you understand that being an inductee in the Hall of Distinction set another high bar for me to scale. So there's no letting up. Social work is not only a career, it's a life's work. Before you view today's retrospective synopsis of our 20-year history, let me put this Hall of Distinction into its context. As you heard before, the Hall of Distinction is a project of the California Social Work Archives, CSWA. The current CSWA board members are listed in your program for today. I'm proud to be counted among them and proud to be a financial supporter of this event. Other supporters, including many CSWA board members and the entire Hall of Distinction Committee, are also listed in our online program. We hope that you will become or remain supporters too, to match our 20th anniversary goal of raising $20,000 over our costs, especially after you learn more about the biographies of some of our past Hall of Distinction honorees. To see more of them, I invite you to visit our website and consider nominating someone for the 2023 or 2024 induction ceremonies. The website link is featured in your event program. Now here comes our 4-minute video that explains the CSWA. After you watch it, you'll know a bit more about what it takes to ensure that social workers throughout the state are valued and recognized for our tremendous contributions to improving our social environments, wherever we find ourselves. When it's over, you'll be met again by Victor Manolo and our 2022 Hall of Distinction Committee co-chairs.
In 1979, the California Social Welfare Archives, CSWA, was established by a small group of dedicated social workers who were deeply committed to ensuring that the theories, knowledge, and understanding achieved by their generation were preserved for future scholars, social welfare advocates, and social workers. That the countless advances achieved in social welfare during past decades would not fade away and be forgotten. And that past and present information would always remain available to inform students, historians, and those influencing programs, legislation, and social justice in California. CSWA has evolved into a statewide, nonprofit organization affiliated with the USC Suzanne Dvorak Peck School of Social Work and the USC Doheny Memorial Library Special Collections Department. Today, CSWA curates a rich, one-of-a-kind collection of social welfare documents and oral histories, which enables users to examine linkages between the past and present and develop deeper understandings of today's issues and create a historical foundation from which to address future social welfare problems and solutions. The Archives houses over 400 collections of historical social welfare documents, some dating back to the 1880s. For example, CSWA holds the records of Rancho Los Amigos Hospital, which began as Los Angeles County's poor farm and became an internationally renowned rehabilitation hospital. CSWA's ever-expanding collection of over 125 oral history interviews, conducted over the past 3 decades, document the history and lessons of influential social workers and social welfare programs. These audio and video recordings have been accessed by thousands of visitors to the CSWA holdings and websites.
I've had many wonderful conversations with my grandparents and with my parents, but those conversations are all lost now. because they were never recorded. The oral histories are something that we're going to treasure for years to come, because these are not personal memories as much as they are memories of people that have made important and significant contributions to social work practice and policy.
The California Social Work Hall of Distinction creates an ongoing legacy of the accomplishments of extraordinary social workers who have made significant and enduring contributions to California social welfare. Honorees are selected annually by a statewide panel of social workers and are inducted into the hall, where the impact of their exceptional contributions is documented and preserved for future generations. Today, social work schools throughout California include the study of historical figures and social welfare innovators whose biographies and interviews can be found on the Hall of Distinction website. Each year, CSWA also presents George Nickel Awards, named after its founder, to outstanding contributors to the health and welfare of California. The Francis Lomas Feldman Excellence in Education Award was established in 2010 to acknowledge exceptional contributions to social work education in California. Join us today to support the success and the future of the CSWA. Please visit www.usc.edu/CSWA.
Welcome back to the main stage. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot about our CSWA founders and key supporters of the Social Work Hall of Distinction. Please visit our website and let us know if you have any questions or comments about the work that we do. And now, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Colleen Friend, the 2022 co-chair of the HOD committee, which is responsible for selecting social workers for recognition each year. Her co-chair, Nancy Lim Yee, was unable to attend our in-person taping, but was fully a part of all this year's preparations, sharing responsibilities with Dr. Friend at the helm of the HOD. It's probably better to refer to Nancy as Colleen's co-pilot, since Colleen is very fond of reminding us during our HOD committee meetings that she wants to make sure that she lands the plane on time so that we can get busy working on our respective parts of the production. Dr. Friend is former chair of the School of Social Work at Cal State LA and an energetic co-pilot of the Hall of Distinction Committee. She's held this position for 8 of the past 10 years. Colleen?
Greetings to all you fabulous social workers, professionals, academics, students, and aspiring applicants. I'm very happy about letting you know some very key information about how our Hall of Distinction HOD committee works to consistently identify social workers worth our esteem and emulation. This past year, our committee debated doing another induction of Southern California honorees, but decided instead that the 20th anniversary of the HOD was worthy of its own pause to mark this milestone. I'm proud to report that all of our HOD committee members agreed to participate in a matching challenge fund to attract sponsorships and donations from our constituencies, all the social workers, social agencies, and schools of social work in California. Getting 100% fundraising participation from any group isn't an easy task, but this group was really special. A few laid down the gauntlet, and in no time, all of the others stepped up too. Then the CSWA board members answered the challenge with their own donated funds. Hopefully, by seeing our example, you will each be motivated to make your own contributions to our 501c3 organization to support elevating our peers for statewide recognition. Every contribution, large and small, is valuable and brings us closer to our $20,000 goal for for this 20th anniversary year. Before we turn our attention to our selected past inductees, I'm going to name all of our current HOD committee members who contributed to the planning of this event. I'll draw your attention to the list of these in the video credits of these hardworking members, as well as other historical members from the founders to the present. There are over 30 past members, many of whom you will be familiar with. This year's committee members are myself, Dr. Colleen Friend, as co-chair, and Nancy Lim Yee, my co-chair. Dr. Gary Bess, also a 2021 HOD inductee, Suzanne Dvorak Peck, David Foster, Dr. Anita Harbert, Dr. Jim Kelly, Dr. Peter Allen Lee, Dr. Victor Manalo, who you've been hearing from today, Catherine Ralph, and Deborah Sun, the ED of our NASW California chapter. The following CSWA team members also contributed to the production of the 2022 HOD program. CSWA President and HOD Committee Member, Maurice Hudson. Board members, Dorothy Fleischer, Barbara Hitchcock, Vimy Jaggi, Mitch Mason. HOD volunteer, Shirley Aldana. CSWA staff member, Ingrid Scott, and Nutra Bahat. We are also ably assisted each year by one or two very competent social work student interns, for whose talents, especially in the realm of technology and tracking, we are immensely grateful. In addition to organizing today's celebration, you should know that we welcome social work students. We did our outreach again this year, and we see you as future organizing of these kinds of events and future inductees. We want to inspire you to do this work, and I do mean social work. Under the auspices of the CSWA, the HOD committee creates internal procedures to recruit and recommend new statewide diverse members for our HOD committee from all fields of social work, practice, academia, research, political leadership, and grassroots organizing. We also include agency managers. We do outreach to our various constituencies, encouraging nominations for each year's cohort of HOD inductees. We screen all the nominations, paying attention to diversity, equity, and inclusion principles. We recommend to the CSWA board approval of our slate of committee members, as well as authorization of our Hall of Distinction inductees. We organize the culminating ceremony held each year in the fall in conjunction with NASW California Chapter's annual conference. Since that body alternates its conferences between Northern and Southern California, we try to ensure that when honoring our inductees, we celebrate them in the area closest to where they are, as well as where their families, colleagues, and constituencies can attend most easily. And to ensure geographic diversity, we include Central California inductees in all years. If I can direct your attention once more to our HOD website, I hope you feel emboldened to apply for committee membership and to nominate a social worker who you believe should be honored with these prestigious recognitions. Please look for this website information at the end of the video. We now join our committee members in extolling our past inductees, wishing we could have included clips of all 135 of them today, but intent on featuring just some meaningful and very poignant real highlights. With the Hall of Distinction, we collectively celebrate the overall impacts of these outstanding and diverse social workers from all over our state of California. Thank you for your consideration and enjoy the rest of the program. And now, back to Victor.
Well, thank you so much, Colleen, for sharing with us how we work in the Hall of Distinction Committee. And thank you to the HOD Committee's leadership in propelling recognition for noteworthy social workers. For our retrospective 20th anniversary journey through the history of our California Social Work Hall of Distinction, we're going to turn our attention now to a series of video clips from past celebrations. The first one showcases various leaders talking about their reasons for attending some of our past in-person events. You'll hear the excitement of the buzzing crowds behind them as momentum builds before they enter the ceremonial room. From the 2010 and 2011 pre-induction ceremonies, we'll now hear from a baker's dozen of notable celebration attendees. Monica White, Colleen Friend, a social work student representative, Jim Kelly, June Simmons, Suzanne Dvorak-Peck, Janlee Wong, Ellen Dunbar, Mary Kay Oliveri, Kim Gallegan, Ermin Gallegos, Victor Manalo, they'll let anybody into those, and Peter Lee.
Very, very exciting night. I think this is the best attended events that we've had in the Hall of Distinction, and we're really, really thrilled, especially with some of the families of our honorees. It's really a privilege to be a part of this.
Hi, I'm Colleen Friend. I just want to say it's been an honor to be the chair of this committee. I'm looking forward to a really exciting night. There's so many social workers here. It's really a wonderful place to network and learn what we're all doing to further the advancement of social work. Thanks for the opportunity.
Professor Sosa thought that I might enjoy it to see a different side of social work. And it seemed like a really cool event, especially because it was part of the National Association of Social Workers. So it just seemed fun and that I would learn something new.
Who I knew for half of a quarter of a century. She is a social worker, and it was an honor to be a colleague with her. And it was particularly an honor to have the students that she trained, who are some of the best faculty in California today. Thank you.
Pleasure to join James Carls, who had the vision, and I was happy to step up and play a role in founding this important recognition and to keep our history visible, to remember the wonderful legacy of key leaders in the field, and so it's great to see it continue, and I'm thrilled to see it so successful.
My hope for this video is that not only will we recognize the most outstanding people in the field, but we're going to inspire many future generations of social workers throughout the country and throughout the world.
This is one of the greatest accomplishments for professional social work in California, and that's because nobody knows the real story of social work and professional social work in this state. So wherever I go, whenever I give presentations, I'm talking to people, and the first question I ask them is, I want you to name a really great social worker, just somebody that really is doing everything and embodies the values of social work. And it can't be somebody that's passed away many, 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 many years ago, like Jane Addams. How about somebody more contemporary? And it was hard in the beginning for people to kind of name somebody, but as the hall has become more and more prominent, and it's on the web, and we have a great list of social workers there, more and more people are saying, okay, if I don't know a great social worker who's a contemporary, I'll go to the Hall of Distinction.
This is such a wonderful event, and I've done it for a few years, and it's such a pleasure to see these great people and all the wonderful things that they have done with their social work careers.
Well, I don't think there's really anything more important than the Hall of Distinction to our members and our retired members, because we're really honoring those that have help develop our profession. But it really is such an important event because it really illustrates our roots, our foundation, and that our leaders throughout the decades have been progressive. They've done research, they've actually formulated policies and programs and practice initiatives based on evidence, not necessarily in the context of hard and fast number counting, but in what really works for people. And I think this is really an important event as a result of that.
I think it's really obvious to anybody who's worked in the field that the pioneers, the people who did the important work to set the pace for the rest of us to follow, have nowhere to be recognized and honored and their work to be brought forward. So, primarily to honor that work and to recognize it and to bring it forward for students to benefit from who are moving out in the field. But then I have a real personal interest, and that is that many people don't know that there's very innovative, creative things happening in our field north of Sacramento. Matter of fact, many people don't know that there's much north of Sacramento other than Oregon. And excuse me, as a representative of the North State, I think it's wonderful to be able to identify those folks that have contributed from the rural, more remote part of the state and the uniqueness and the richness that they bring to our field and to our practice. So I could go on and on. I think this is a wonderful organization. I think the history that we capture and the hope that we promote for students and for people in need is a wonderful tribute to those who came before us.
This is Herman Gallegos. I'm really delighted to be honored in this way. I've known many of the past inductees and some of the ones joining me tonight, and I really have always admired their incredible contribution to give meaning to what the profession of social work is all about. So I'm pleased to be part of that group.
Well, I'm here on behalf of Cal State Los Angeles. They're one of the sponsors of the event, but this really means a lot to me. Many of the people that are inducted are mentors of mine, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for those great social workers, compassionate social workers that kind of showed me the way and took me under their wing and mentored me. So I'm just always pleased to be here.
I'm Peter Lee. I'm the acting director of the School of Social Work at San Jose State University. We're a proud sponsor of this event, and San Jose State is one of the places in the Bay Area and also in the state that we're just glad to be part of the family of educating future social workers, as well as supporting colleagues, as well as supporting our profession, and we're just glad that we're here to support all of the folks who have made the profession what it is today, because without those folks who have come before us, we wouldn't have such a wonderful profession. Thank you.
I hope you caught some of that buzz that you will feel at our live events. We hope to once again host in-person celebrations very soon. And so we move from the noisy foyer, past the entry door, into the ceremonial rooms, where the audience partakes of happy and heavy appetizers and a no-host bar. We listen to highlights of selected inductees or their representatives who, in their acceptance remarks, address one of four key themes that I'll describe ahead of each cluster of remarks. The statements of the first group of 8 honored social workers address key affiliation sentiments for our profession, either why am I a social worker or why I'm proud to be a social worker. You'll now hear from this group of inductees: Dr. Ismael Diepa, Dr. Nancy Humphreys, Diana Ming Chan, Mariko Yamada, Nancy Ford, wife of honoree Richard Ford, accepting on his behalf, Dr. Barbara Solomon, Yasuko Sakamoto, and Helen Ramirez.
That would not change anything in my life. If I had to live my life again, by some magic, I would be a social worker again. Because social work is the most noble profession. Social work is a profession that personifies what life is all about: a commitment, a vision to change, to improve the lives of people that are less fortunate than we are.
One of the things that in the interview this morning, I said several times, and I know every time I look at my career, I know I have been very fortunate. I became a social worker at the right time, at a perfect time, September the 11th, 1960. The era of the great investment in public services and the explosion of the profession. I was the second woman ever elected to the presidency of the National Association, and today the idea of social workers being in elected political office is nowhere near as foreign as it would have been even 10 years ago. So I seem to have had the good fortune to be at the right place at the right time.
I love our profession. I believe that it does wonderful things, and because I believe that it's a profession that truly addresses individuals and systems and helps them through the crises and the problems that they have, and then rejoice with them when things are better.
There has been no other profession that I would have ever picked. I would have never imagined being anyone else but a professional social worker. And in this almost 40-year career of public service that I have been privileged to serve, no matter what job it was that paid my salary, and whenever anyone would say, "Oh, you used to be a social worker, didn't you?" I always would correct that by saying, I am still a social worker. I just happen to be working, in the county for the Board of Supervisors, or I happen to be working as a civil rights investigator in Washington, D.C., or working as an equal employment officer in San Diego, or a county supervisor in Yolo. And even today in the Assembly, in the California State Assembly, that thanks to so many of you, I've been privileged to serve.
And because he was a minister, the people in the neighborhood would come hoping that he would be able to help them with problems. But the problems that they had were problems that really a social worker would deal with. Rent control, abusive spouses, single mothers, drug addiction, all these kinds of things. So at that point, he decided he needed to get a degree in social work. And so he went to the University of Buffalo, and that's where he received his master's. He became very heavily involved in all aspects of the community there.
In California, while my mother went to graduate school at UC Berkeley, the only school of social work I actually applied to was the University of California at Berkeley. I didn't know that they had a minimum age at that time of 21. I was only 19. And I didn't know, but they did let me in. And I have been supremely happy that they did ever since. I cannot imagine another profession that could have possibly meant as much to me as social work has done. Social work is, in fact, the profession of the 21st century. It is the profession where we are not interested only in problem solving in terms of human relationships, but we are desperately committed to human rights and social justice. And that's the kind of society that we so desperately need now. And I am proud to be part of a profession that is committed to bringing it about. Thank you so much.
After over 40 years, I still love being a social worker, and I am very proud of being a part of the social workers like you who work compassionately and with care to help people in the community in need.
Because I look at you and I'm still very proud to be a social worker. Thank you.
Our next group of honorees refer to themes that arise in both social work education and practice based on our set of social work values and ethics. Their remarks are laced with the importance of remaining true to the ethical compass of the profession, even when it causes good trouble. You'll hear from Dr. John Oliver, Dr. Bernice Harper, Dr. Manuel Fimres, Dr. Marianne Pennekamp, Margarita Mendez, voiceover done by Nancy Lim Yee, Terrence Roberts, Dr. Fernando Torres-Gil, and Dr. Reno Patty.
A brief paragraph from one of my papers on empowerment of social workers outlines my practice ethos. A direct quote: "On the first day of my university classes, I began by emphatically stating, I am a social worker. I tell my students that when I reflect on who and what I am, it provides me with a sense of connectedness and direction. I also tell them because I am a social worker, I ascribe to select conceptualizations of our clients and their problems and reject less plausible conceptualizations. I explain that embracing our code of ethics, I am morally and ethically obligated to those interventions which are in concert with client values and aspirations, and that collectively we pursue only those outcomes supportive of their right to self-determination. I also tell students that the identified outcomes that emerge from interactions with clients must be compatible with their ethnic and cultural reality and must always promote political, social, and economic justice," end of quote. My father's mantra was, "A life devoid of service to others is no life at all." The essence of social work is the provision of professional service to others. Consequently, my choice of social work as a career not only enabled me to adhere to my father's mantra, the rendering of service to others ensured that I live a rich and rewarding life. I believe that all professional honors are the results of a collective effort.
I believe that our work is cut out for us. And I want to say to you that I believe that social workers are going to be called upon to help soldier love, caring, and devotion. And I would say to you that it took 3,000 years to bring us to where we are today. I will not be here to see the revolution. Some of you may be, but it's the next thing that has to happen. It has to be human, caring. That's the only way to go. And it has to be worldwide. So all the things that are happening in our environment, I believe the world is reshaping itself for the future. And in conclusion, I want to say the social workers are going to be available to assist, to help to make a better world. But not only a better world, but a changed world for human betterment. Thank you very much.
Working with San Jose State, again, it's such a conglomeration of very bright people, a lot of talent, but the politics there are vicious. And I think in every university setting, there are vicious politics. So the hell with all of that. I decided I was going to join the union, and I became the president of the faculty union at San Jose State. Bring a little justice into this Congress of prima donnas. And in a way, that has been my life. I am a firm believer in social justice, and many years ago, like, what is justice? To each his due. Well, what is due to me? And you can debate that. But I was always talking about distributive justice and share the goods of the earth and not have them concentrated in the hands of a few. But anyway, I did not have a prepared speech. I just want to thank you because each one of you is important. You are committed to a set of values, and I think that as social workers, we have the best values in the world. Where we are missing is a vision. But we can put together a beautiful mosaic of a grand vision by events such as these. Again, thank you, all of those who voted for me, and thank you, my family and friends, for having supported me.
That we talk about more about empowerment, but we've gotten so out of the habit of listening really to client voices that we need to figure out how to do that. And not only in, I see too many team meetings, which are extremely expensive and may or may not give a voice to the underrepresented at the table. I go back and forth with my colleagues about some of that. I believe it's a mixture of informal honoring and respecting and having lots of contact, and then some decision making that is in a more formal sense. So a combination of the two. But I truly believe that strength-based work needs to truly equalize the power dimension, and in order to be fully able to move ahead.
Margarita Mendez believed in the inherent capacity of people to succeed and insisted that social workers take seriously their mandate to advocate for the disenfranchised. She was the first Latina to hold the position of District Mental Health Chief for Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. Many Latina social workers in Los Angeles considered her their mentor.
It's the kind of thing that takes me all the way back to when I was first introduced to this profession. We learned things that were seminal from the beginning. One of the things that stands out is in our work, in our personal life, whatever we do, always start where the other person is, making certain that you don't look up to anybody or look down on anybody. Everybody is peer in this universe. I was sitting there thinking today about some of the phrases that came to mind from school. You know, the most desirable alternative that is available to you as social workers, because you push hard, as Jane does, and a whole lot of other people too, pushing for change in our society. It isn't easy. It isn't easy at all. Why? Because you have tremendous opposition always. Just a few weeks ago, I finished reading a novel by Bernard Malamud entitled The Fixer. He wrote this novel in 1966. A very prescient sentence in that book. It's about Jewish anti-Semitism in Tsarist Russia. But the sentence goes like this: in a sick country, any sign of health is an insult to those who live off the sickness. So as you continue to do the very vital work that you do, know in advance that whatever it is that might be seen as something good and progressive will be an insult to those who don't want to see that because it interferes with their income stream. It interferes with getting tax breaks. It interferes with them being the kind of people they think they want to be. Little do they know, they're on the wrong trail. In any case, I appreciate what I've learned from social work. I've tried to take those principles with me wherever I go.
And I will end with my own particular quote, which I think all of you have heard, but it exemplifies why I've pursued my career at the macro level in government and public policy as a social welfare, social work advocate. And it's a quote that's been repeated many times but bears repeating, by Hubert Humphrey. The moral test of government is how that government treats those who are in the dawn of life, the children, the twilight of life, the elderly, and the shadows of life, the sick, the needy, and the handicapped. So let's continue the struggle. Let's stay with it. Thank you for this tremendous honor, and thank you for including me.
The role that social work has played in this development. While much work remains to be done compared to 50 years ago, people today who are hungry have access to food stamps. The mentally ill get care in the community, not in hospital warehouses. Children can be protected against physical and sexual abuse. Women, sexual, and racial minorities have rights and opportunities that were unknown, unheard of 50 years ago. I am grateful to have been a participant in that 50-year struggle. Today, the social contract is under assault, and the headwinds of radical conservatism pose a challenge that threatens to turn back the tide of progress. But sooner or later, this society will come to understand that the arc of history bends toward freedom and equality. That in an interdependent world, we can only be successful if everyone has a stake in our economy and everyone has the opportunity to realize their potential. Bringing this vision to fruition is the challenge of a coming generation of social workers. Thank you.
Our next and smallest group of inductees and their spokespeople address our theme of having overcome obstacles on their path to becoming a social worker. Please note the ways in which their experiences parallel your own or enhance your sense of how different people address and hurdle significant barriers with grace and purpose. Past inductee David Kuroda speaking about new inductee Jim Mayano, Dr. Alex Norman, Richard Salzgiver, and Dr. Rita Takahashi accepting on behalf of Dr. Kunitake Morgan Yamanaka.
Had it not been for Jim Mayano, I would not be here today. I would not have become the social worker that I am. My life would not be as blessed and privileged as it has become. What happened is that when I had applied for admission to the school, I was asked for an interview. I think at that time, only the marginal students were invited for interviews. If your grades were high and your test scores were high and you had good experience, you didn't need to be interviewed. But I was one of the marginal students, and my application had been submitted, and so I was invited to come in for an interview with one of the senior faculty members at USC and Jim Mayano. As the interview progressed, I was asked, David, who wrote your autobiographical statement? That's a part of the essay that we submit along with your application. I thought the question strange, and I said, I wrote it. Well, did anybody help you? No. And as the person asked the questions, I realized that my essay was lousy. And so as the interview went on, I became more and more discouraged, and I was getting the sense that there was no way I was ever going to be accepted by what I thought at that time was one of the finest schools of social work in the country. Jim could tell how I was feeling, and he took me aside afterwards and he said, David, let me help you with this. He mentored me and coached me and encouraged me so that I didn't give up, and rather than walk away and give up on an important profession, I revised my application with his guidance. The new autobiographical statement started with the following sentence. I was born in a concentration camp. It went on to probably impress some of the readers so that after waiting weeks and weeks, I finally got the letter saying, welcome to the USC School of Social Work, and I was accepted. I never got to thank Jim for what he did for me. Some of you may know that he died a couple of years ago. But I am glad that tonight I can thank his family, his friends, because I'm only one of many, many social workers that is here in the field, that is committed to doing what Jim valued.
It just occurred to me that this is an individual award, but it really is a collective effort, because I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors, going back 7 generations. I'm just 2 generations from slavery, so I'm the grandson of slave parents. And it's the context of my ancestors that drives my theme of social justice. But as I think of the issue of social justice, it really is one in which I think of one of my mentors, and I've had many, but one of them was Whitney M. Young, Jr. And Whitney always said, there are three things that you should remember. First of all, remember who you are, remember where you are, and remember why you are there. Because as you become engaged in the battle of social justice, it means that you're going to be engaging in transformative change. And by engaging in transformative change, you're challenging the powers that be. And as Frederick Douglass reminded us, power concedes nothing. It never has, and it never will. And I'd like to take this opportunity to issue a challenge to social work, that as we enter in this new phase of American culture, that we really champion the cause of those who are victimized by society, not just because they don't receive services, but because they get the short end of the stick. And there are many people who get the short end of the stick who are coming to us from faraway shores.
So I am awed, I am honored, unbelievably honored, and I am so thankful. I'm so thankful I'm a social worker. What a wonderful profession we have. It's just fantastic. It's a wonderful profession because, number one, it was founded by women. And that's glorious because women bring to this thing this eclectic, three-dimensional picture of what the world is. It's not a two-dimensional picture, it's a three-dimensional. And their experience allows us to look at the context of people's lives. What a glory. I'm so thankful. I'm thankful because it's one of the few professions that allows you to legitimatize your life experience. I was institutionalized from the age of 6 to 12. I know what being without power is. I know, and I've experienced it. I know what it's like to be locked into a room, locked into a closet for 3 days because you did something wrong. And also I know what it's like to be sexually abused. And that knowledge has served me well via my profession of social worker because it gives me that legitimacy to talk about that. So when I worked with juvenile delinquents like Terry worked with, well, probably, I was probably right. I knew what it was like to be confined because I had been confined. I knew what it was like to have no power. When I worked with severely psychiatrically disabled children, I knew in part what they experienced. And when I came to California, wonderful California, and Nancy, you're so right, because I made, well, I don't know, but anyway, I moved back east. It is an entirely different world, and you should be so happy you're here. So happy. Because the diversity is so exciting. It makes life so rich. And it will reside in your heart forever, and you're absolutely correct.
He was a very committed social work educator and definitely a feisty advocate for change. And when I say he was a feisty advocate, it began when he was in concentration camps during World War II. When the war broke out, he was in San Francisco, and he ultimately had to go into assembly centers as well as the concentration camps. And he protested, and he ended up in the stockade for some time because of his protest against government actions. And then subsequently, after he came out of the camp, he went on for his bachelor's degree as well as his master's in social work degree from University of California, Berkeley. And right after that, he took a series of positions, social work related positions, and they were all leadership positions. I think it's pretty amazing, all of the jobs that he had before he became a social work educator. First, he worked at the International Institute of San Francisco, where he was a senior group worker. And next, he became the executive director of the Mission Community Center in San Francisco. Then the director of the Mission Neighborhood Center, also in San Francisco. And then he became a faculty member in 1962, and he remained at San Francisco State University until 2006, and like I said, 44 years. He had a very distinguished career as a social work educator. He was the person who pretty much set up our field education program at San Francisco State. And he introduced a new course that became, I mean, it still exists today. It's kind of unique. It was a course where students would learn about all the nonprofit organizations in the Bay Area. So it was one where the undergraduates got connected to all the different agencies in the area. And like I said, we still have that course today.
We're edging up to our final theme now, with this group of honorees and their spokespeople. There are 7 of them, and they each tackle some version of our theme of innovations and contributions to the social work profession. The crowd is full of inspiration and reluctant for the afternoon to end too soon. Each of the inductees has added light to our spirits and weight to our sense of purpose. Here come some who have contributed significantly to improvements in the social climate or structures of life in California. Bill Coggins, Teresa De Crescenzo, Chauncey Alexander, voiceover by David Foster, Jan Lee Wong on Jeff Jew, June Simmons, and Dr. Joe Nunn on Rondellums, and Esther Gillies.
I'm going to have to make a deeply personal confession. I'm a groupie. I say that jokingly, but it begins with group. Mother-child, husband-wife. Those are some tough groups. And I say that because I see many groups here with whom I have connections. And it's a testimony to the existential fact that you can't do much without a group. You can't do it by yourself. You have to collaborate. You have to have alliances. Maybe some people can be isolated and somehow float through life, but I'm a groupie.
Every one of you is special to me, but I have to offer a special acknowledgement to my first clinical supervisor, whom I met almost 43 years ago when I walked through the door of Las Palmas School for Girls, later the Dorothy Kirby Center. People have been coming up to me all evening saying, "Is Eva Ballo here? Oh my God, can I say hello to her?" Well, yeah, she doesn't mind when people say hello to her. Eva Ballo, thank you so much for being here tonight. And for being, please, yeah. And for being such a mentor to me. You taught me a great deal clinically, but your real wisdom for me came in your encouragement to always do the right thing, to always do work that I care about, and to never work for money. Slim chance of that. You used to say to me, as long as you have your health, the only thing that matters is doing work you know you're called to do. And I have tried to do that in the nearly 43 years that have passed since you gave me that advice.
I was teaching at the UCLA School of Public Health and in the School of Social Work. I taught community organization. We were organizing in Watts to form a new school of medicine there, Charles Drew University. We took the dean of the UCLA School of Medicine down there to meet the committee because we had never dealt with the community at all. The community chewed him up to pieces, telling him that UCLA was not meeting their needs and that they needed this program in their community. He was scared to death.
He was also the consummate professional, because as a social worker, you get involved with clients, you rise to supervisor, you supervise other social workers, you become an administrator, you become a manager, you become an executive, but you also want to promote the goals and values and ethics of professional social work. And one of the ways you do that is to be a member of your professional association and contribute to your professional association. So Jeff was an incredible leader of NASW, the National Association of Social Workers. He served as chapter president of the California chapter, and he was by far an incredible chapter president who followed in the footsteps of another wonderful chapter president here, Manuel Frimbres. So Jeff was my mentor, and he was my inspiration as executive director of NASW. He also served as the director of the chair of the California Mental Health Directors Association, the California Welfare Directors Association, and he also served on the national board of NASW as well as the NASW Insurance Trust. He also served on the California Social Work Education Center Board of Directors.
And so we remain on the quest. It's the social work quest to touch lives, to alleviate suffering that should not occur. And so my motto is, number one, it's never not worked out, so you can take the risk, because it always works out. And number two, no does just mean it's a much longer discussion than you were planning on. So in these times, we won't take no for an answer, and we will vote. Thank you for this honor.
It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to introduce our next inductee, Mr. Ronald Dellums. As social workers, many of us in this room have dedicated ourselves to improving the lives of others. Ronald Dellums is someone who has dedicated his life to public service, but uniquely, after entering his MSW program with a concentration in psychiatry from the UC Berkeley School of Social Welfare graduate program, he went on to serve the community on the local, state, and national levels. Along the way, he has often spoken about the value of social work education and how it shaped his career and contributions. I know when I read his book, Laying Down with Lions, I was struck by a couple of things. One is when he made the point that when a speech was given and people would analyze the speech, Ron would say, oh, he said much more than that, because he was able to listen with his third ear and look with his third eye, as social workers are known to do.
Of all the events that I attend in the course of a year, this ceremony inducting social workers into the California Hall of Distinction is always the most moving, the most awesome, the most inspiring. And tonight certainly was no exception. It, once again, is just magical to think of the accomplishments, the dedication, the commitment, the abilities of the social workers that we've discussed this evening. Social workers moving mountains, achieving the impossible, change agents in action, reigniting the sense of the possible. I always leave this event feeling so rejuvenated and proud to be a social worker. So I agree with you, Monica. If I had to make a choice today, given the experience here and with this organization, I would choose to be a social worker.
It's been my pleasure and honor to MC today's 20th Anniversary Hall of Distinction program. I hope that you enjoyed our selection of past inductees and their amazing and touching stories. And I hope to see all of you again next year, hopefully in person. Until then, don't forget to support our effort with your contributions. Apply to be on our HOD committee. nominate a worthy social worker whose contributions to our state need to be elevated for all of us to witness and emulate, and or explore the biographies and video interviews with many of our past inductees linked in our online program for today, or you'll see on the screen right now. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.